Are you tired of making drums that sound flat, lifeless, no matter which samples you use? I've been in that rut for years, until I realized it's not the samples, but the decisions that matter. In this video, I'll walk you through my 5 pillars of drums: sound selection, placement, tone, shape, and layering, so you can finally craft professional, punchy house and techno drums. If you want to take your music career to the next level, get signed by top labels, and play the world's biggest stages, check the first link in the description, and let's get started with the video. So the first thing that I want to talk about is going to be the sound selection. And this is the foundation of like any electronic or any track that you can ever imagine. So I always think of sound selection as a foundation of my track. So good sound selection means that the sound is going to be good and stable. So if we fail with sound selection, the track will just fall apart. The drum groove are not going to sound good, right? So bad sound selection means ruined and unbalanced track. And we'll get into Ableton very, very quickly. The first thing that I want to talk about in sound selection is going to be the principle. In a nutshell, we can split sound selection into different categories or families by the sound character. Let's say this is like an abstract example. We have balanced house drums, we have rounded and soft organic drums, and let's say we have sharp and aggressive techno drums. And I have prepared a couple of loops for you to show this concept. So the first thing is going to be the techno beat, which sounds surprisingly like techno, right? So this is the techno beat. Pretty classic, nothing extraordinary here. Kind of classic, right? Then we have pretty much the same beat, but with house drums. And I will explain just in a second why I did the same beat with different samples. And then to illustrate to you an example of bad sound selection, I remade the same drum loop or the same groove with trap drums, and it just sounds bad, just like this. It just doesn't sound techno, right? So let's get back into the presentation and talk about that. So we could say that you can combine different sounds from the same family. They could be different, however, they will be from one main family. So let's say you're making techno, so that's going to be techno drums. If you're making house, that's going to be house, right? So this is just like a schematic illustration. So it could look something like this. So blue sounds are very different from red sounds, but you can see this is the same parent, right? However, this is an example on the left of having too many different elements. Let's say you have like drum samples from dubstep, house, techno, trap, whatever, and you try to combine that into one loop, and most likely just not going to work. It's just not going to sound that good. So it is okay to use different families of sounds. I have some examples that I will show you in a second, as long as there is some balance in your drum loops. So my advice is just keep it simple. You can spice up your drum loops with a little bit of variation. And on the other hand, if you have too much of like variation and like random samples, this will not sound cohesive, and sounds will not complement each other. They will not support the group. They will not sound good. Let me show you this example. So let's say we have this techno loop with a bass line. Pretty classic sound, I should say. Pretty nice, right? So if I try to recreate the same drum loop, like it's exactly the same loop, but with trap drums, it's just not gonna sound good. Like, check this out. Like, the kick is not on point, the claps are not really on point. The only thing is the hats. The hats could potentially work. So again, this is an example that you could actually combine different elements, different sound families, right? Then there's an example of the same beats that I made with house drums, and it doesn't sound that bad. However, I replaced the hats with a shaker to again show you how important it is to select the right samples. So it uses the same claps as from the techno beat. I replaced the hats, as I said, and the kick is from house. So overall, like, it sounds kind of okay, but not really that good, right?
So I want to show you the last example. So this is the combination of techno sounds, house sounds, like house/garage sounds, with a little bit different drum beat, but it's pretty much the same, just a little bit different. Where I was able to combine it in a really, really nice way to again show you this example that you can combine different families. And the beat sounds really nice with the bass line. Let's check it out. So I pretty much took a techno hat, I combined that with the real hat, I combined that with the shaker, but the shaker was from a techno pack, so pretty much the same thing, right? And then once we listen to that, it actually sounds pretty good, right? So this is, again, an example that you can combine your drum sounds. And to finish up with the sound selection part, how do you know that you are selecting the right drum one-shot, drum samples? It just should sound good without any processing. So if it sounds good, if the sound is cohesive, nothing is like popping out and like whatsoever, this means that you have selected the right sample. So this is the rule that I usually follow. And then again, it will take you some time to understand what you like, to train your ears, but this is the overall guideline. So just so you understand. So let's talk about the key points, the key takeaways. Sound selection is the foundation of your track. There are different families of sounds, let's say like techno, dubstep, house, whatever. Too much variation in drums will kill groove and sound unbalanced. Too much variation, I'm referring to having too many samples from different genres, just not going to sound good. And you can spice up your drum loops by using different sound families, as you've seen just now. Let's now talk about different drum rhythmic patterns, because these are the foundations of your drum loop, right? So they can be simple, like as simple as just like the kick, clap, upbeat hat, the shaker, like super simple, or they could be complex, and there are pros and cons with each type. And before we dive deep into that, let me show you each of the loops that I made. I'll be showing you more examples. We're going to start slowly, and then I'll be covering more advanced stuff. So for a simple one, it's just going to be pretty much like classic. So I would call this drum loop simple. On the other hand, there's a complex one, which I created again for this tutorial. So there's more sounds in there, like significantly more sounds. So let's talk about pros and cons of each drum loop pattern, or like the complexity of each. So simple patterns, pros. It's really easy to program. It's really easy to mix. It doesn't take a lot of space in the mix, more space for other sounds. And it can sound amazing once you program the right groove. So let me show you an example from my own track. And it should be this one. So take a listen at the drum loop. Like, it's very simple. It's very simple, but it's very groovy. And we'll be breaking down those soon as well in this tutorial. Oh, I just realized my camera, my camera fell down. But anyway, let's listen to this drum loop. You see, it's very, very simple. It doesn't have a lot of loops. It doesn't have a lot of like drum sounds, but it sounds really, really nice and really, really groovy. Again, this is an example that stuff can be simple. It doesn't have to be complicated to sound good, right? So another example would be, let me check. I think it should be this one. So this one is quite advanced, like quite complex. There are a lot of samples here, but it still sounds pretty nice. And then one more example that I want to show you is going to be this drum loop. I think it should be. So there's a lot of things going on, like percussion sounds, shaky sounds, and so on, right? So now let's talk about the cons of simple drum loops. To be honest, I couldn't come up with more than 2. So it was quite hard. I don't see any a lot of cons with having simple drum loops, simple grooves. So quite often it can sound boring if it's too simple, right? So if you just have kick, clap, hat, and that's it, it's just not gonna sound that nice. And it's pretty hard to achieve solid groove with fewer sounds, because the less sounds you have, the more attention you have to pay to each of the sounds. But don't worry, I'll teach you how to get the right groove. We'll break down some of my drum loops. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now let's talk about the complex patterns pros. So it's easier to achieve more interesting groove as you have more sounds. It's going to be more diverse from one point of view. So again, it can sound diverse and complex, and there's going to be a lot of variation in your sound. It will sound interesting. And now the cons. It's easy to overdo, and the drum loop will sound too busy, and you don't want to have too busy drum loops. Too many choices and sounds can be overwhelming and make you stuck with the drum loop. And I experienced that myself not that long time ago when I was tweaking one of my tracks. It may kill the groove if programmed wrong. So if you have too many sounds, you're gonna see how much it will kill the groove. And it takes a lot of space in the mix. And then let me go back to Ableton. Let me show you this example. So I actually muted some of the sounds. So we're gonna bring them back, and I created one bass loop for this one, which sounds like this. Now if you listen all together, the drum loop just doesn't give enough space to the bass line to be translated, right? So check it out. So it's really a huge mess. We want to avoid that. And then on the other hand, if we take this example, same bass melody, right? You can clearly hear the bass line. So sometimes you want to use more complex grooves. Sometimes you want to use more simple grooves. Really depends on the scenario. So that's the point with the grooves. Now let's talk about rhythmic placement. This is super important, and I will show you. So we have downbeats, which is basically when the kick hits and the let's say the claps. We have syncopated beat, which basically accentuates, puts an accent on weaker beats. And then we have the offbeat. Basically, again, it's the weak beat, so the open hat. So let's talk about those. So the downbeat is going to be this one, the bass drum, the strong beat. We have it here. Let me mute the hat. So it's the strong beat, super simple. Then we have the offbeat, which is going to be the open hat. And then again, it's just, you can think of this as a weak beat, which is basically going in between those strong beats. So everything that is in between, which is not the downbeat, we could call this the offbeat. And then we have the syncopated rhythm, the syncopated rhythm, or the syncopated beat, whatever is the name. It will put an accent on weaker beats, and it can improve the groove significantly, a lot. So just check it out. And then, for example, we can put a low tom, let's say like this, and then the mid tom. So those two are going to be syncopated sounds. Oh wait, I think I should do probably like this. Let me actually use another example. This one wasn't that good enough. Okay, so I'm just gonna solo everything. So let's mute the rates. Let's mute the closed hats, and let's just focus on some of the key sounds. So in this example, we have rim shots. So the rim shot is basically using the downbeat, and is also using the offbeat, or syncopated beat. So sometimes it goes together with the hat. Let me mute the. Again, the tom is also playing the offbeat and syncopated beat. yeah, so this is what I wanted to do in the previous example, right? So at the end, we have those syncopated. And understanding these is very, very crucial because those are the fundamentals of any drum beat, basically, right? So again, this is an example. We could use it. And then let me show you the next steps. So I'm going to give you some rhythmic placement tips. So you always want to combine complex and simple patterns. So for example, if we go to something like, I think it was this track, if I'm correct, should be this one. Yeah. So this is a sort of a combination, like roughly speaking, right, of a simple and a complex beat. So if you take a look at the hats, or like at the drum loop, I mean, so we have those syncopated rhythms. So it's not just like the classic offbeat hat, kick, clap, and snare. So we are actually combining sort of different complexity levels in the drum loop. Plus, we are also using syncopated drum or syncopated beats, like this one, for example. And the same goes for the clap and the rim shot, which is just layered together, right? And then again, we have this syncopated hat, and then at the end, there's the snare, which is basically looping the whole drum loop, right? So it helps it to resolve in a nice way, because if your drum loop doesn't loop in a nice way, it's just not going to sound really that good, right? So this is one of the things that you can do. The next thing that I want to talk about is utilizing different grid size. So when you're programming your drums, you can select different grid sizes, right? So for example, if I select 1/16, you can see that this one is looking a little bit off the grid, right? But not really, not really. If we do like this, you should use triplet grid, right? So now you can see that we are using triplets, and this is what I'm referring to. So using different grid, basically, right? For example, we could do like, let me just show you what I mean. Right, so you get the point, right? So what we want to achieve is we want to just combine, here you can see we're combining downbeat, this is the offbeat, this is the syncopated one. And then again, I'm combining triplets, and I'm combining triplets with the regular beats, right? What else could we do? So we could do something like this. So now it's going to be in 1/8. We could do like, not triplets though, but something like this. So we are combining different grid size, like, I don't know how I would call this correctly, just like grid size. So again, it could affect your drum loop in a really, really nice way. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is just keeping stuff simple overall. Like, it's so important to not like overkill it with your drum loops, because otherwise it's going to be like a huge mess. It's just not going to sound really that good. And I had this problem, and really you should always have the balance between like complex stuff and then simple stuff. If you just look at the drum loop that I have at this point, it's like super simple. I just have the shaker and then just a little bit of variation here, but it's so simple that it's actually catchy. It resolves in a nice way, and it's just really good. So something like this. And then again, if I break down the other drum loop, for example, this one, you will see that it is actually very simple, right? So if I play this one, for example, if we take this one, I'm using a bit of shakers. Again, this is downbeat. This is also downbeat. This is a syncopated one. And then I do have a bit of percussion here as well, right? So if you look, like this. Then I do have a little bit of reversed claps, which is also a really nice thing to have. Like you can take your samples, you can reverse them, just, you know, spice it up a little bit. And then in the second half, you can see here that I layered some more percussion sounds on top of the claps here, right? So if you listen, it's going to be like, plus there's rights kicking in. Right, so this one gives additional groove. It just makes the drum loop a bit more interesting. So this is what I'm talking about. And one more thing, like this is more advanced stuff. So this is going to be the accent layering. So what is accent layering? Let's say that you have melody. You have a melody and then you have the main notes that are sort of creating the groove. So by layering your melodic hits with the drum hits like this, right? You can supercharge your drum loops. And I want to show you one example, one really good example of my recent track. So here I have two examples. One track was the previous version and the new mix is the one that I reworked like almost completely. I reworked the drums and I reworked the balance. So let's take a listen at the version number 1, which I played in the clubs. I tested it and I realized that I had to rework it. The problem with this track is there are too many accents, like high accents in the drums. And because of that, it just doesn't really translate that well on these, like on big club system. So if you listen to it, and then the new version sounds like this. Pay close attention to how the drum sounds are layered with the melody. And then again, I want to show you this picture. So this is what we are looking for. Listen to how the hats, like those little hits, are layered with the piano melody. It might be like a little bit hard to hear at this point, but again, just to explain the logic, you want to layer your main accents with the drum accents, and this will improve your groove a lot. And a couple of more ninja tips that I want to give you is going to be like 2 more tips. Beatbox, just literally record your mouth, and I'm gonna show you why it is so cool. So if we take this, I think it should be this example. If you listen to this drum loop, like the track demo, and once you process those sounds, like it's just so easy to put them into the track. And then the next thing that you can do, you can literally look at the waveform, right? So what like sounds, like how my drum loop is looking. So where do I have my shots? Is it like this? Is it like, you know, maybe like this? Or is it maybe even like this? And then you can duplicate by MIDI. And this is so smart. It's just so easy to program, because once you are beatboxing, it just comes to you naturally. You're just vibing to the beat. You're like, you can vibe with the track. So you are feeling the track. You're not just like programming on your computer, right? So this is one of the things. And then what else? This one is a shaker that I have recorded. And then again, these are my keys that I just recorded in my studio, right? So you can do simple stuff. These are my like real claps. That's the thing. And then one more tip is going to be using drum pads for more realistic programming. You can even use like a MIDI keyboard. The point of these two techniques is to make you connect with music, not just program like on your computer with your mouse, because yes, it's easy to do, but then you're not really feeling the track, which is not really good. We want to feel the track. You want to feel the groove. You want to move to the groove. And this is why it's so nice to do. So yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, so we covered rhythmic placement so far, accent layering, and some of the really good tips. Now, let's talk about the next thing. This is something that I see a lot when I'm working with my clients in my one-on-one coaching. So a lot of people don't understand the concept of sample, length, and shape. So what I'm talking about is you want your track to breathe. You want to have that like back and forth feeling, right? So you want to have that bounce. If you don't have enough space in between your drums, it's just not going to sound good, right? So this is an example of a good groove. So we have like a little bit of variation between our elements. And then we also have some space. This will let the track breathe. On the other hand, if there's not going to be any space here, like here, so the elements are just like fading into each other, you might be in trouble. So you want to consider changing the length. To give you an example, let me show you what I mean. Let's say that we are working with, we could take one of these loops, for example. So we have this loop. I'll mute this one. Okay, so we can take this hat, right? And then I'm going to replace it with something, let me find a long hat, right? So let me go to something here, hi-hats, and then we can take this one. So pay attention how much it changes the groove once I'm changing the envelope. So now it's punchy, but if I want to change the groove in my track, now I'm going to increase the release time here as well. You see what is happening right now? We just, like, the elements are clashing. We just don't have enough space in the mix, and you want to avoid that. It just doesn't sound good, right? So let me mute this one. Let me take this hat sample, and I'm going to shape it a bit. Increase the release time a bit. Like already just by changing it a little bit, you see how much you can affect the groove, right? Let's get back to this sound, and then I'm gonna do the same thing. Let's decrease the release time. So much more groove that we can achieve with this. And then again, I'm gonna give you an example with this drum loop. So let's take this one. So I'm not liking the open hat sound, to be honest. Same thing, right? And then same thing with the clap, right? So we can use the decay time and do like this. See how that affects the groove. So if you're struggling to get a consistent groove, a track that is breathing when you can really feel all of the elements, consider changing the envelope. I would just put everything down and start from the shortest decay time, and then see how much do you need to increase or decrease in your drums. And then again, if I have too long drum samples, if the shape is too long, it's just not going to vibe. It's just not going to emphasize the groove in my track, which is not really good. We want to avoid that. And then here are a couple of tips how you can do that. So you can change the note length manually, or you can consider you can change that with the ADSR envelope, and you can also automate the ADSR envelope, and you're going to see like how much that is going to affect the grooves. Let me show you an example, which is going to be this one again. So we can start with something super punchy, super short. So we can start something like this, and if we want to climax, if we want to have more energy in our track, I can increase the decay time. See how much that affects the grooves. Try it out, super important. This is the thing that, I don't know, just like a lot of people, maybe they don't know about it, maybe they just forget about it. That's sort of the point with this. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be the drum tone. Again, this is one of the most underrated drum parameters, which can either kill your groove or empower your groove. So what I'm talking about is super, super simple. It's not going to take like a lot of time to explain, but let's say you have this hat. It's pretty high, so it doesn't drag the whole track down, but if I pitch it, it still sounds good. Maybe for some of the tracks that would work, but it just, I don't know. I think -3, it changes the groove completely, right? This one is really high pitched and it doesn't drag the whole track down. So to show you what it does to your track, let's say you have a drum loop where all the samples are tuned correctly. If one or more elements are not in tune, this will drag the track down and kill the groove. So one of the reasons why your tracks might not be grooving as much as you want is because your drums are a little bit too low. So you can consider tuning, putting the drums like a little bit higher in the register in terms of the notes, right? So the pitch. Try it out. So it's like, you know, it's such a minor thing, but it's more like advanced stuff, and a lot of people forget about that. So again, I could take this song, right? And if I pitch it, so it doesn't really sound that groovy, right? And then let me bring the second one as well, a bit down. Even though on its own, the open hat sound sounds good, it doesn't support the groove. So once I bring it back, check how much the groove has changed. So like this is what you have to look at when you are making your drum groove. Super important, very, very important concept. Now let's talk about the layering. So the layering is gonna be an interesting one, but like in reality, it's just so simple, guys. So I like thinking of layering as a pie, as a cake, something that has multiple layers. So we always have the foundation, which is going to be the main sample. The second layer could be like the attack, the tone, the body, the timbre. It's not like that is fixed, something like fixed values, like fixed attack or like fixed type of layers. No, it's just more about the logic. And then the third one could be the texture. Obviously, this is a schematic representation. Depending on the track, you can combine different elements. So maybe you're just using 2 layers or all 3. It's all about understanding the logic why you layer the sound. So let me break down some of the examples. So for example, what we could do here. Let's take this one. Let's mute this one. This is the real hat, right? And then I can shape the envelope. And then once I bring back the first one, this one is adding a bit more body to the sound, a bit more, I could say, texture. And then we can balance that a little bit. And then let's take some of the other samples. So for example, what if we take it to this one, and then maybe a shaker? Maybe not this one. So with the shaker, we added a bit of texture to our sound. Again, let's tweak the envelope, super important. So I could still layer, but if I don't get my envelope right, if I don't get my tuning right, it's gonna sound like crap. Right, so something like, you can see how much this affects the groove. It's like day and night difference. So this is like pretty much all about the layering. I could give you another example with another track just for you to practice a bit more with layers. So let me see what I have here. It's gonna be, so if I take the claps for example, you can see I layered like how many claps did I layer here? Some of the samples might be missing though. For example, if I mute one, so every sample has its own role when you are layering. So it's either going to be like, again, the tone, the character, the timbre, it literally could be anything. But the most important thing to understand, why do you layer certain sounds? So if I take this one, I hope that those, no, this one is not working unfortunately, so I can't show you. But I think with the previous example, I covered pretty much like everything. It's really about the logic. And here are some layering tips. Ask yourself these questions to understand how to layer drum sounds properly. Do I really need to layer? If yes, what is the sound missing? Is it missing attack, tone, texture, power? What is it the thing? Did I layer too many sounds or too little sounds? Neither is good. Go for balanced sounds. It's not good to layer like millions of hats because it's just gonna make the your top end pretty like busy and cluttered. You want to avoid that. So always go for the balance. So, did layering actually make sound better or worse? So this is the thinking process. I can't give you like obviously all the questions, but I can give you a guideline, like the approach, the workflow that you could use. So think critically, and always ask yourself why you are doing something in the first place. And then it's just going to be really, really easy for you to do the thing. And then like if you get to the point with layering that, you know, maybe it's like a little bit too much, then just consider removing some of the layers. Or if you feel like your drums sound too weak and you need something, it's just really about understanding, then just layer that. Now, let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be the groove and swing. And I think this is something that a lot of people miss in their tracks. So this is an example how a real human plays. When you play a real instrument, you can never hit the same note with the exact same strength and so on. However, it's fully possible to make a flat drum loops indoor, and we all did that at some point. And unfortunately, it just doesn't sound good. We want to make sure that our electronic drums sounds alive too. So how do you fix that? Let's take a look at the key elements in the groove. So in this case, this loop will sound very robotic, boring, and unnatural. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take some of the drum loops that we worked with. I'm going to duplicate that. And then just let's take a look at the drum loop like this. And then we are going to do like this. So listen to how it sounds. Really flat, really boring. You don't want to have that. Now, once I applied, it's just the velocity. I didn't even do micro shifts like in the groove. But it's already sounding so much better. And then all I have is just really 4 notes. The pattern is repeating itself like it's this long. But even though it still sounds so much better. And we can go even deeper with this. So the next thing is going to be the quantization. So the micro delays in the in our group. So let me show you what I mean. We can take those, let's say the second note, and once we do little shifts, like you can see, like it changes the groove dramatically. Really nice, right? And a lot of people forget that. Once they program the drums, once they program even like heck, the melodies, it just doesn't sound good. Like it sounds flat. Guys, don't forget about this. It's like super, super important. You can do this either manually, or you can do, if you're an Ableton like me, you can apply some groove patterns, the groove pool. So what we can do here is we can apply the groove. Let's see, that's going to be swing. It'll be 66. Obviously, we don't want like that much, but just keep in mind with those swings and groove pulls, like it's like day and night difference, right? So without, wait, I think I need to do 0. This is without. And then once I apply that, and same goes for this one, I can apply a bit of groove to this thing. Let's say it's not going to be this much. Let's bring these back. Pay attention to how much it changes the... And we can play with the bass line too. And I can apply the groove to the bass line as well. It's actually going to sound really, really nice. So let's do consolidate. Let's do like this. And then let's apply the groove. Like, do you feel the bounce? It's just so, so good. And then you just need to apply like a certain amount of... I think about 25 is a sweet spot. It gives you like just the right amount of bounce. So this is what I can say about the groove here. So again, to give you a visual representation, once you look at the grid, the samples are a bit of the grid, and this is what creates the groove. Same you should do for velocity. For every single hit, try to program the velocity. It will sound so much better. And then we are approaching the final part of this tutorial. I know it's really, really long. I've been filming for 44 minutes, but it's like so much good stuff in this tutorial. So I'm just enjoying making a bit longer videos. How to structure your drums. And this is something that my one-on-one clients asked me. So I decided, yeah, let me share my approach to that. So having no variation in your drums will sound boring. Let's spice it up a little bit. If you look at this diagram, you can see that there's no change in my drums. So you want to avoid that. And here's an example of what we can do. Let's say the length is going to be a little bit longer, like a little bit bigger. So here is 16 bars. So this is 4 bars. On the other hand, on this one, here we are going to have 32 bars. So it's a little bit longer. So each one is going to be like 8 bars. So if you look at the diagram, the energy goes up as we start adding more layers. So we are progressing in the energy. Depending on where you are in your track, you can either go down in the energy or you can go up. So in this example, we are going up. So we are adding with every single, every next part, like every next 8 bars, we are adding something. Obviously, this is schematic representation. So this is an example how I could put this visually. Let's say in the intro, we have like a basic drum loop. Then in the beginning of the drop here, let's say the drop starts here. I don't have any drums, like any drum samples whatsoever. And then I'm starting to add little by little. This is the next part of the second drop, like this. Then this is going to be drop 1/3 part of the first drop. And then this is going to be like the ending of the first drop. Obviously, again, this is just a visual representation that you can do. So it's just really all about not having everything playing at once, splitting everything. And I'm going to show you some examples. I think it's going to be just one. I think that will be enough. This will be this one. So if you listen to this is the intro, and then I'll show you the full track as well. So you can see I'm starting with something. This is the build-up. And then I'm starting my job with no drums. And I'll show you the full track in just a second. And then what I'm doing, I'm slowly starting to build my drums, like build tension with my drums. so you see how I'm stacking the drums, and it dramatically changes the groove. So at this point, we have a super simple pattern. And now let me use the full track so you can actually see how it goes together with all of the sounds. So we have the full track, and this is going to be the intro, and it's pretty much representing what I did here, right? So I had a little bit of like a drum groove in the middle, and then I slowly started building with my drums. So you can see, I'm going to skip a bit. This is the build-up. And this is going to be the pattern, so it's visually, you can understand how I'm programming the drums at this point. And now let's transition to this part, because here it's pretty much the same thing. So pay attention how the drum loop changes and it becomes more complex. I think this one is a little bit off, but this is how the original arrangement goes so far, right? And then you can see at some point I'm using a little fill. So if you listen, for example, I'm gonna show you here. So I really can't give you like the ultimate recipe, like how would you take out, like add the elements. It's just really all about the taste, the experimentation, and again, like referencing your favorite tracks. But I could give you like the blueprint, the structure on how you can do those things. And then at some point, look at this. So at this point, it becomes more like a complex. We go from a simple drum loop to more complex drum loop. And then at the end of the job, like at the climax, if you listen to the, I think if I remove a little bit like this, then it will be exactly the same. Oh wait, it should end here, yeah. So if you listen, the second drop is like full on, really energetic. And then if you listen to it, like it's still a little bit off, but anyway, the point is, in this energetic part, my drum's a little bit simpler, so so that the drum loop is not clashing with my main sounds, right? So this is what I'm trying to achieve. I actually know what was the issue with the track. The tempo is 127, which is not the original one, and because of that, it's a little bit off the grid. But anyway, yeah, that was the thing. So if you look at the progression of my drums, it's just really all about understanding the energy. If you want more energy, then you are just adding certain sounds. So for example, adding rides is my favorite way to emphasize my main drop. So adding rides, you can see here, if you listen, you can clearly hear the rides. And also accents. If you look at the accents are a little bit different. So at this point, the rides are at the downbeat, but I think in the previous one, no, actually it is the same. But however, you can play a little bit with the accents. So if you do like this, and maybe in the other part of the track you do like this, it will give you a different groove. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the tutorial. I've been filming for 53 minutes. So yeah, that's probably one of the longest videos I made so far, but I tried to cover pretty much like everything in this track. Not in the track, I mean in the tutorial. You see, it's a little bit hard for me to talk at the end of the tutorial. But yes, that's gonna be it, guys. I hope that you learned something from this video. It's really the most that I can give you in like 1 hour masterclass, the drums. So if you have any other questions, if anything like is unclear, obviously I can't cover like 100% of things that I learned since 2016 when I started making music. But this is so far, I can promise, one of the most, if not the most detailed and most visual tutorial on making tech house drums. And the best thing about this video is it's not just the tech house drums. You can use, and you should use, these concepts for pretty much any musical genre. The concepts are the same.
If you watch till the end, then I can see you're super serious about your music career. And if you want to take your music career to the next level, you want to play the world's biggest stages, get signed by top labels, and do this thing full time, make sure you watch this video next here. It will show you how me and my team can help you to achieve these results in just 90 days.